Hey guys, welcome to part 4 of my hand history review of my biggest win ever. Now that we're in the money, let's see if we can guide those chips to a position on the final table with a nice chip stack. If you haven't yet watched parts 1, 2, and 3, I invite you to do so that you can see how we got to this stage in the tournament, and I guarantee there are some really good gems you're going to pick up along the way that are going to help you improve your tournament play and help you make more money in poker tournaments. If you've already watched those, fantastic, then you're in the right place. Let's keep this tape rolling and get into the action.
Ace 2 suited, not calling there. Ace 10 suited, facing a 6 blind shove. I think we isolate and we chop it up. Not going to run that one on ICMIZER. It's similar to the Ace Jack one earlier, but I think at this point you guys see how to use ICMIZER, and you see it's actually quite simple to use the program, and that's really good. Anytime you can step up your game without having to put in a lot of effort, that's great. The software programs make it so easy to learn these spots and refine these spots, and I really wish programs like this existed when I started my career like 10 years ago. We had to do it by hand back then, which is why I didn't really do too much work on it. So I'm like, I don't want to do it by hand, but now you guys just click a button and boom, you got the answers. All right, threes. Here we're getting 2 to 1. And for this one, I'm just gonna show you guys in Flopzilla, because we don't need ICMIZER for this. We're getting 2 to 1. We need a 33% chance of winning. So to pick our hand, we go to dead cards here. We have pocket threes. And then we just give him a range. So let's give him there, top 20. Top 20, and let's see, the equity of our hand is 42%, and we saw that we need 33%, so it's a profitable call. Also, we're flipping for a third of our chips as opposed to half. That's more reasonable for gambling. Still not the best for gambling. Now, if we give him 10%, so he has a much stronger range, we still have enough equity to call. In fact, for us to not have 33% equity, he'd need to have big pairs only. Right? As soon as we give him a hand that we're flipping with, we have our 33%. And that's why we call here with the pair. I don't know what he's got. What has he got? I don't know. We got a set. We win. All right. Ace deuce. Folding. Dodged a bullet there. Jack 5's a fold. Queen Jack's a fold. All right. Here we're getting infinite to 1. We're putting in 8,000 chips to win 64,000. So that's an easy call. And we win the flip. Where are we at now? 8-16. We got 10 blinds. Very shallow. We must be really deep. I'm going to look at the lobby to see just how deep we are. I think, honestly, at this point, we're probably down to the final 4 tables. Maybe even 3. So we're very, very deep. Just pull the payouts up real quick. So we're 24 players remaining. 24th to 19th pays $1,685. 18th to 13th pays $2,224. 12th to 10th pays $3,100. 9th to 7th pays $4,600. 6th pays $7,400. 5th pays $11,377. 4th pays $17,390. 3rd pays $25,478. 2nd pays $33,701, and 1st pays $45,161. So here with like 9 big blinds, we got to be really selective. We're just kind of waiting for the spot to get all our chips in. Got to be patient. Can't be too crazy. See a jam and a call from Soily McDiaper. Soily McDiaper lasted a long while there, but cracked by ace 5 is going to put a damper in his spot. And Soily McDiaper runs it again. Ooh, loses to the quads. GG, bro. GG, bro. Blind's now 10K, 20K, so we have 5 bigs. It's amazing how quickly we get short. It's just hyper turbos. Like, if you want to have chips, you got to jam a lot, or you can just be patient and wait for your spots. This is definitely our spot if it folded to us, but with PVAS raising, I don't think it would have been profitable spot for us to get it in. But I think we can check that with ICMIZER. So with the 40K raise, let's see what they say we should get in. They say we should still get it in with this. Well, why is that? Probably because we're putting in 100K and there's going to be 100K out there anyway. 10, 20, 20, 40, 90K plus his 60. So 100 into 260 means we need 38% equity, and against a lot of different calling range we'll have 40%. But we don't want to just take break-even calls. Again, we looked at this earlier. It's better to be shoving and having a chance to get folds through than to know we're having to run the cards. And if we have to run the cards, I'd rather have something where I'm a sizable favorite, where I can have them dominated, as opposed to hoping to be flipping at best, which is what we would have been doing here. And we actually would have won. So if we went with ICMIZER, we would have more chips at the end of this hand than we did anyway. How do you let ICMIZER know you're on the stone money boat? Well, that's the other thing. So with ICMIZER, we can do the payouts. So for that, we're currently doing chip EV, which is what you do when you're far from the money. But if you go ICM dollar EV, then you can type them in. So we go Supersonic 45. I'm just gonna round the numbers up, and we'll just go with that because we're down to the final 24. So we'll just go, and it's a hyper create. Okay. So now that we have ICM EV, we calculate, and actually that should change. Yeah. Now we call way fewer hands because of the fact that we can make money by not playing, and that's the key. But also, no, the blinds are not that. Okay. Now we calculate. Interesting. With pay jumps, we shouldn't do that. Now I don't know if it knows that we still have quite a few players left. It may think we're on the final table, but that does shift things quite a bit. King 8. I was very curious about this hand. This is the spot that we went for. And see what ICMIZER says about it. I'm going to go with just the chip EV. Chip EV. It's easier. And we're going to go, we want no action. There we go. Let's calculate Nash equilibrium. So here we only have like 3.5 blinds. So I think we can shove quite wide. I think King 8 is going to be a spot. Because if we don't shove here, if we don't take this spot, the blinds are going to go through us. We're going to have like 50K, and we're going to have to double up just to get back to where we were. So it's better to make a move and see if we can pick up a pot and increase our stack 50%, 60%, 70% by getting it through. And worst case, we gamble, but we have 3 blinds anyway. It's not like we're going to win the tournament by just sitting on 3 blinds. So that's why we take this spot. And unfortunately, we got called by 2 players. But fortunately, we made a pair of kings, which was good enough to win. Ace 2 offsuit on 12 bigs. Nope. Okay, King 4. I saw this one in the replay, and I did not like it. I watched the replay, I'm like, oh, I was getting almost 2-1. I could call. But I'm gambling for a third of my chips. I just got these chips. I don't think it was a good call. King 4 is just too junky of a hand, but let's see. They have him shoving these hands. Hero should be calling. Okay. ICMIZER says we can call with King 4, but that's if it's doing chip EV, purely based on chips we expect to gain chips. But because of ICM, because of the fact that like having a stack that we can navigate is worth a lot of value, and going from 12 big blinds to 8 big blinds is a pretty significant drop. I think in retrospect, I definitely should have folded. And here, blind versus blind, we go for the shove with the Jack 8. We looked at this earlier. Short stack, blind versus blind, we can shove. very wide. And we see Jack 8. We're picking up a whole big blind, shoving here. Expecting to pick up a whole big blind, so easy shove. Queen 9 suited, same story, folded to us. Yeah, 8 blinds, easy jam. Get it through. Hand that plays well when called. At this point, I think there are 18 players left in the tournament. And this is one that there was some disagreement on. And in one of the YouTube comments, someone said that shove is, normally your push fold's really good, but that shove is way too wide. And I ran the numbers, and in fact, it was too wide, but not by much. Not by much. In fact, Queen 9 offsuit was the very line hand. Very line hand. See that Queen 10 was a shove, is a profitable shove, and Queen 9 is an unprofitable shove. Queen 9 suited would have been profitable. That's assuming small blinds or cutoffs calling with this range. It's assuming buttons calling with this range. Small blind and big blind over calling. But it's not guaranteed that they're going to call this wide, especially the big blind. I don't know if it's not too wide. So if they're calling with those hands, shoving with Queen 9 is a losing call, chip EV wise. So this was a slight losing call by me. But just because I made a losing shove doesn't mean it can't work out, because there's always plan C, crack and crush. And we did it, and that put us up to 500K. So Jack 9 suited is definitely a strong enough hand to open. 20 big blinds is a delicate stack. The one thing, if we open this hand and Sturm shoves, we're going to be priced in, so we should call. But we can fold to everybody else. So I think min raising this hand would have been totally fine, especially with the antes being in play. There are big antes here. There's a lot of value to going for steals. Now here with 5-6 offsuit, I am getting the right price to defend. I'm getting 4-1 here, and I'm going to have enough equity, a good enough chance to win. But I didn't want to butt heads with the one guy on the table who had me covered. So this was a strategic thing that I'm like, he's not the guy I want to do battle with. I'd rather do battle with other people. So even though I have like the right price mathematically, it's going to put me into a lot of situations moving forward that I don't like, that I don't think are going to be favorable for me. So I preferred to fold. And again, in those close spots, you don't have to go with the math, because the math is just in the moment right now. We also need to think of the future math. You know, how is the situation going to look for us on the flop? How's the situation going to look for us on the turn? How's the situation going to look for us on the river? And I think this is a spot where we're going to get ourselves into a lot more troublesome spots on later streets as opposed to favorable spots on later streets. Queen 6 we fold. 7-4 we fold. King 10 definitely could have been a profitable shove if it was folded to us, but we didn't want to call off there. Lines are pretty big. We got 10 bigs again. Classic hyper turbos. And with that elimination, we're down to 11 players. So at this point, with 12 players remaining, we've locked up $3,100, and we're 2 spots away from $4,600. Ace 10 for 10 blinds in the cutoff. Got to go with it. Got it through. Plan A, all in. Ace 8, we would have called a shove from Sturm XL. Would have called a shove from Radual Suolo as well. Against UU, maybe. We're probably out of his shoving range. 9-8, we could shove blind versus blind, but we're not shoving, we're not calling a button player's shove. And at this point, we are down to 12 players. No, we're down to 9 players. We have 4,600 locked up. 2 players to get through Queen Jack on the button. That's a go. This is a spot where you gotta push and pray. You just gotta close your eyes. You gotta push. You gotta pray. You'll get it through. So here with 8 deuce, we get a shove from Lucky Dan Ace, and it's only 50K more for us to call. So we only need a 14% chance of winning. And if we run in Flopzilla, we can see that even with a hand as garbage as 8-2 offsuit, if we're up against aces, we got 12%. Slightly not enough. Give him ace king. Way enough equity. So, because we're putting in so little to win so much, we can call with pretty much anything. And we do. And we lose to the fivesies. All right, next spot. Ace king. You're all in? I'm all in too. I'm all in too. And whew, remember that sweat. Sweat on the flop. No sweat on the turn. At this point, there's like 7 players left. So we shove with ace jack. Are up against kings. Lose it back. But made a profitable shove there. 3 nines a fold. Pocket fives. Definitely a shove, blind versus blind. Lucky Dan didn't wake up with a hand, so we got that through. And look at that massive chip up. We started the hand with 600K, and we bump it up to 800K just by getting it through. And this is, yes, this is the final table. So at this point, we've made it to the final table. We're guaranteed $7,400. Fifth will pay $11,000. Fourth will pay $17,000. Third will pay $25,000. Second will pay $33,000. And first place will pay $45,000. Coming to the final table, fourth in chips, middle of the pack. So, our expected value is probably about 17 Gs. Anything better than that we do is awesome. And so it begins. Final table. We got a shove from Raduel Solo, call from Lucky Dan Ace, Ace King, chop it up. Now when we get to the final table, because there's so much money to be made from the pay jumps, because the increases are so big, the potential to laddering is really there. Staying out of trouble, staying out of confrontation is a very fine strategy, especially when working one of the middle stacks. Because that's the case, if you're one of the bigger stacks, it's a great spot to apply pressure to the medium stack players. But if you're a short stack, it is totally fine to stay out of the way. So Lucky Dan Ace got in with ace-2 suited there, called by king-queen. I'm interested. I'm very curious to see what ICMIZER says, because final tables is where ICM is most relevant. So what did we have on the hand? We had 4-6 suited. Copy that hand. Paste it into ICMIZER. Now we switch from chip EV to ICM EV. Okay. And now we calculate the Nash equilibrium. So Lucky Dan Ace should be shoving with, it's the hijack, right? Yeah. He actually should be shoving really tight because of ICM. So ICM thinks that he should fold here because of the potential to just wait and make more money, make more chips. Now, I don't know if I fully agree with it though, because he has 4.5 blinds and he has a little bit of fold equity right now, whereas if he lets the blinds go through them, his fold equity is gone. And when your fold equity is gone, the tournament's pretty much done. You need to pick up a big hand. So I'm a big advocate of using your fold equity while you have it before it runs out. And even though ICM's saying it's not, there it is, I was looking at the wrong one. I was looking at the call range. His pushing range, as we see here, is ace-2 suited and stuff. So we see the shoving ranges go this wise, and these are the calling ranges. So if I shove, these are the hands they should call with. If he shoves, which he does, these are the hands the other player should call. So let's see if the button should call with king-queen. And according to this, no, it shouldn't. So his shove was profitable, given even with ICM, but you use call with king-queen suited, they say was not, because he's missing out on potentially just making money. That said, he's getting a pretty good price here. He's putting in $350 to play for over $1 million. So the chances of him winning, the equity of his cards are good enough to call here. It's because of the payout considerations and the fact that he could make, an extra 4 Gs without doing anything, extra 20 buy-ins, that ICMIZER is suggesting he should fold king queen suited. It probably also know how the board was going to run out. So with you going out in 6, we now have $11,000 locked up, and we made top 5, which was our goal in the stream, was to get a top 5 finish and a 5-figure score. And I remember it being pretty incredible when it actually manifested.
Yes! Yes! We made it to the final table, boys. We made it to the final table of the Sunday Supersonic. And there was a lot of really interesting stuff that happened in this part of the series. We really delved into the difference between chip EV and ICM EV, one which makes chips and one which makes dollars, and the importance of using ICM calculations when you're approaching the bubble or approaching the final table bubble of a tournament. We learned about the importance of taking pot odds with marginal hands like pocket 3s and queen jack offsuit, because in poker and in poker tournaments, it's not about showing down the best hand all the time. It's about taking the right price and showing down your cards whenever you're getting the right odds to gamble, given the pot odds you're getting compared to the equity that you have with your hand, your chances of winning. And finally, we learned that Grips isn't perfect. I made a shove with queen 9 offsuit that did not fit on the chart. And I also made a call with king 4 offsuit that did fit on the chart, but that I wasn't a fan of. And that really shows you that just because the program says something doesn't mean you have to do it. If I could go back and do it again, I would fold the king 4 offsuit, but I might still shove the queen 9, because there's so much value to taking down the pots pre-flop and forcing big pots, because if you win them, well, you have a stack that you can take all the way to the final table and maybe even to one of those top 3 paying spots. So it's important to use the software to get more awareness, more perspective, more understanding, but don't let it be your final decision maker. Ultimately, you're the boss and you need to call the shots. I'll see you next week for part 5, where we navigate the final table to my biggest online payday ever.